Breathing. How we breathe. Definitions. People know breathing is essential to life, but why? Let's start with some important definitions. Breathing is the work that our muscles do to move air in and out of our lungs. Ventilation is bringing a gas, oxygen, often written as O2, into our body and getting rid of another gas, carbon dioxide, written as CO2, from our bodies. Just like we ventilate our houses to get in fresh air and get rid of fumes, smoke or COVID. Respiration means supplying oxygen to our body's cells and tissues. In our bodies, ventilation requires a pump, the ventilatory pump, which requires force to produce the pump action. This is provided by our respiratory muscles when we breathe. Ventilation. Our ventilatory pump brings air in and out of our body using three main respiratory muscles, the diaphragm, intercostal and scalene muscles. When they contract, three things happen at the same time. The diaphragm, a large dome of muscle, flattens and pulls down. This increases the height in our thorax or chest. It also pushes our abdomen, belly, out, which you can feel if you have a tight waistband, and moves the lower ribs out a little. The muscles between our ribs, the intercostal muscles, pull the rib cage up and out, increasing the width of our chest. And finally, the scalene muscles pull the sternum or breastbone up and forward, increasing the depth of our chest. These three movements increase the volume of our chest. Our two lungs are stretchy and attached to the inside of our ribs, diaphragm and mediastinum by the pleural membranes. These moist pleural membranes are fixed to the inside of our rib cage and surround the surface of each lung and slide against each other. As our diaphragm moves down and our ribs move up and out, the pleura move with them, and our lungs are pulled open and expand. Therefore, as our chest volume increases, our lung volume increases. Air is sucked in. This is inspiration or inhalation. As the lungs expand, the air tubes or airways inside them are also pulled open, increasing their diameter. Expiration or exhalation is the phase of ventilation when air leaves our lungs. Our respiratory muscles relax and our lungs and the air tubes or airways, having been pulled and stretched open, recoil back to their original shape because healthy lung tissue is stretchy or elastic. It returns to its resting shape naturally. Our chest's height, width and depth decrease, reducing the space and increasing the pressure on and in our lungs. Our airways narrow, and the very smallest close, and the stale carbon dioxide-rich air leaves our body. Our lungs are never completely empty, otherwise they might stick together. A residual volume is left. This is known as quiet breathing. When we're relaxed, adults breathe in and out approximately 8 to 18 times per minute, and each breath contains about 500 millilitres of air. This is also known as tidal breathing. Sometimes the tidal volume needs to increase, for example, if we exercise. In pregnancy, the tidal volume increases by up to 50% because growing a baby needs more oxygen breathed in and more carbon dioxide is made that needs to be breathed out. This mechanical act of the air being drawn in and out of the lungs is ventilation. Notice how high up the lungs reach in our body and where the diaphragm is. In quiet breathing, the diaphragm is responsible for 75% of the breathing effort. Notice that the rib cage goes right round the body. It reaches further down the back than at the front, matching the lungs which do the same. We need to pay attention to the back and front. It is a 3D structure. Now we understand ventilation, the mechanics of how air is drawn into our body. We need to understand where the air goes once it enters. We inhale, breathe in, through our nose or mouth. If we breathe through our nose, there are superfine hairs and a thin layer of mucus that filter and warm the air and trap dirt, so the air can flow better and bring fewer irritants into our lungs. The air continues down the upper respiratory tract, above the Adam's apple, through the pharynx, the throat, and larynx, the voice box. Then it enters the lower respiratory tract, the area below the Adam's apple. Imagine an upside-down oak tree, the bronchial tree, where each bronchus, or branch, is a tube that the air travels through. Firstly, down the trachea, the windpipe, then it divides into two large main bronchi, left bronchus and right bronchus, which lead into each of the two lungs. These branches or bronchi divide and divide and divide about 23 times into the narrowest branches called bronchioles before they reach approximately 480 million alveoli, the microscopic air sacs in our lungs. Our lungs also contain mucus to trap harmful bacteria and viruses that cause disease. The bronchi are lined with cilia, microscopically small hairs that keep the thin layer of mucus flowing towards the larynx. This traps inhaled particles, such as we might find in smoke, sweeping them up and out of the body. It is important to visualise this journey through what we call the airways, from nose to alveoli, to know the names of each part and for the healthcare professional to be able to pinpoint where a problem might occur and therefore what treatment might be needed.